Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled. For so long, artificial intelligence felt like something, way off in the future. But just in the last few weeks, maybe months, AI has really rapidly become this tangible reality. It's profoundly reshaping our society right here, right now. It truly feels like we're at a pivotal moment. For this deep dive, we're exploring future-proofed, how advancement is changing society. Our dedicated research team, they've compiled just extensive sources, articles, cutting-edge research, fresh data, basically, to give you a shortcut to being well-informed on the most important societal, economic, and cultural shifts driven by technology and, well, abundance.
It really is striking how fast AI's impact has shifted from, theoretical prediction to actual, practical, sometimes even chaotic global implementation. So our goal here is to distill the core themes, the findings that pop up across most, if not all of these documents. We want to provide a narrative built on strong consensus because the era of just talking about AI disruption, that's over. We're firmly in the era of real-world implementation now.
Okay, so our mission today is to unpack what this all means for how we work, how we learn, how we live our lives. We'll provide you with some surprising facts, key insights, hopefully help you understand this monumental transformation without feeling, totally overwhelmed. Okay, let's unpack this. The great job reshuffling, AI's impact on the workforce. Right, we have to start with the workforce. I mean, the conversation around AI and jobs has really shifted, hasn't it? It's not just about jobs disappearing or being created anymore. What we're seeing now is, well, it's much more complex. Research is calling it the great job reshuffling. And there's this consistent theme popping up about hidden displacement, where companies are maybe systematically understating AI's role in workforce changes. They're using euphemisms like restructuring or optimization.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. Our research consistently shows that roles built on routine, repetition, predictable processes, those are most at risk. Think administrative jobs, data entry positions. The analysis indicates maybe up to 38% of their tasks could be automated. Some industry folks are even predicting customer service roles could, well, disappear entirely. And entry-level coding, software testing, they're highly susceptible too. And this AI-driven displacement, it is often obscured by those softer words, those euphemisms. It creates a bit of a dangerous disconnect, really, between the public chat and the economic reality.
Okay, so some jobs are shrinking or changing dramatically, but is it all doom and gloom? Are new roles actually emerging? Is there a clear benefit maybe for those who adapt? What's the research saying about any potential upside for workers in all this shifting?
Well, it's definitely not all bad news. Not at all. The bottom line seems to be AI fluency isn't just a buzzword. Our research shows it's a direct path to, frankly, a massive pay bump. Workers with demonstrated AI expertise saw their wages go up by an astounding 56% in 2024. That's huge. And in job postings, the ones explicitly requiring AI skills, they offer an average salary that's about $18,000 higher, or 28% higher, than comparable roles without those requirements. What's really notable, though, is this premium isn't just stuck in traditional IT anymore. It's showing up across different fields like marketing, finance, even HR, human resources. And this connects directly to the corporate restructuring you mentioned. Major tech companies Intel, Microsoft, Meta, IBM, Amazon, they're shifting their growth strategy. They seem to be moving away from scaling just by adding more people, more headcount. Instead, they're scaling through system intelligence. They're redirecting huge resources toward AI infrastructure, machine learning. We've seen some incredible examples like IBM's Ask HR system automating, 94% of routine HR tasks, or Lenovo getting 8 times faster content generation using AI. It's impressive.
That is a powerful shift, and companies are clearly seeing massive returns on this. But then there's this intriguing productivity paradox that the research keeps highlighting. While AI is boosting corporate output, like you said, individually for employees, it can actually lead to longer workdays and less focused ones. How does that contradiction even make sense?
It does seem counterintuitive, doesn't it? But the data seems quite clear. While firms that fully integrate generative AI report these big labor productivity increases 23% and 29%, Microsoft using AI for 30% of its code, Amazon saving $250 million with AI agents. The human experience is different. Data analyzing workforce activity, it shows employees using AI tools have, on average, about 8 minutes longer workdays, and significantly, about 27 minutes less focus time. This points to what our research is terming digital friction. Essentially, new, powerful tools are being added, but without fundamentally re-engineering the existing workflows. So this creates new cognitive loads for employees. Things like the constant need for careful prompt engineering, or the critical task of verifying AI outputs for accuracy, managing new AI-driven communications. It raises a really crucial question. Are we truly redesigning work around AI effectively? Or are we just sort of piling on new tools and expecting magic? It kind of reminds me of when email first hit, suddenly everyone was drowning in their inbox. Sometimes progress brings its own hidden costs, I suppose. 2. Reshaping learning in the global divide. Education in the AI era.
Right. But AI is reshaping more than just our paychecks and workdays. It's fundamentally changing how we learn and, maybe more importantly, how our kids are being prepared for this future. What's this sort of global push we're seeing in education around AI?
Well, governments worldwide are definitely starting to view AI literacy as a foundational competency, kind of like reading or math. But the strategies are varying quite widely. For example, the United States is encouraging AI adoption in K-12 schools, mostly through federal funding for things like personalized learning and tutoring. But notably, there aren't clear federal support structures being set up. Then you look at Saudi Arabia, stark contrast. They're implementing a mandatory nationwide AI curriculum for all public school students, primary through secondary, starting in 2025-2026 as part of their Vision 2030 plan. And India launched its SOR initiative that's skilling for AI readiness for grades 6-12. They've seen something like an over 1,800% increase in schools offering AI as a subject in just 5 years. Huge jump.
Wow, that's a massive range of approaches. And speaking of preparedness, our research also seems to point to a significant governance gap in education, where the policy ambitions are actually outpacing the readiness on the ground. How does that play out in the real world?
South Korea is a really crucial cautionary tale here. They had this ambitious plan for mandatory AI-powered digital textbooks, but it faced just overwhelming resistance from the public and professionals. A survey found that a staggering 98.5% of teachers felt unprepared to actually use these new tools effectively. So this widespread opposition led to a pretty significant scale back. The AI tools ended up being reclassified as optional supplementary materials. And this disconnect, where you push new tools without adequate teacher training, without clear ethical frameworks, or even the right digital infrastructure, it just leaves individual educators and already strained school systems shouldering an immense burden.
Hmm. And what are the broader global implications of all this, especially for regions maybe like the global south? Is AI potentially widening those existing digital divides, or could it possibly help bridge them?
Unfortunately, the risk of widening those divides looks pretty significant right now. The primary barriers in many regions, like across Africa, they aren't really about advanced algorithms yet. They're foundational issues. Things like unreliable electricity, limited access to high-performance computing, significant talent shortages. Similarly, in Latin America, you have high labor market informality, where over half of all jobs are outside formal systems, plus a lack of basic digital infrastructure. This means millions of jobs simply can't leverage AI's productivity benefits right now. So this foundational deficit means these regions really risk being locked out of the AI productivity revolution, potentially making economic divergence even worse. What's striking is that while, say, two-thirds of people in low and medium human development index countries expect to use AI in their work within the next year, the infrastructure actually needed for that, it's largely absent. 3. Policy, ethics, and the future social contract.
Okay, so we've touched on these profound changes in work and learning. Now, let's maybe pivot to how nations are actually responding and the fundamental divergence, it seems, in how they plan to govern this AI era. What are we seeing there?
Yeah, it's a critical area, and the policy blueprints emerging across the globe really showed distinct philosophies. The United States, for instance, with its America's AI Action Plan, seems to prioritize innovation, deregulation, and geopolitical competition. The framing is often about winning the AI race. Then you have Vietnam focusing on a more integrative state-led approach. They're looking to restructure their national economy, enhance government efficiency using AI. The European Union, they're taking a very regulatory-first stance with their sweeping AI Act, imposing strict obligations on high-risk AI models, focusing on transparency, accountability, and China is proposing more of a global cooperation alternative, advocating for international tech development and regulation coordination. Each one represents a really unique vision for how to navigate this AI future.
Right, different paths. And with these transformations hitting workforces, the debate over new social safety nets is really heating up. Specifically, things like universal basic income, UBI, versus these automation taxes, sometimes called the robot tax. What's the latest thinking on these ideas?
Well, the case for universal basic income, at least as a broad-based solution, it faced a bit of a setback recently. A large-scale U.S. trial found that recipients actually showed decreased labor market participation and reduced earned income. That tends to weaken its political viability. Contrast that with the robot tax idea. It's moved from just theory to actual legislative proposals. In New York State, there's a bill aiming to tax companies that displace human workers with automation. This offers a more targeted approach, sort of a polluter pays principle for automation maybe. It seems to be potentially gaining traction as UEI faces some empirical hurdles. It definitely raises that big question. How will societies distribute the wealth generated by increasing automation?
Yeah, fundamental question. And what about the challenge of economic inequality overall? Is AI making that better or worse?
Unfortunately, the bulk of the research indicates that AI adoption is actively polarizing the labor market. It consistently seems to favor highly educated workers while reducing the non-college educated workforce. It's essentially creating this missing ladder effect for entry-level roles, the ones that traditionally served as career starting points. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has explicitly warned that AI will likely worsen overall inequality, both within nations and between nations, in most scenarios they modeled. And this just necessitates massive reskilling efforts. The demand for AI skills right now, it far outstrips our current capacity to train people. It requires a pretty fundamental shift toward lifelong learning for almost everyone.
Okay, powerful stuff. Just a quick pause here. If you're finding this insightful on YouTube, please do take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and maybe turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the future. And if you're listening on a podcast service, perhaps Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a rating and review for Tomorrow Unveiled. It really does help us reach new listeners. Outlook and recommendations.
All right, looking ahead then, maybe the next 5 years or so, our research seems to point towards continued labor market polarization. Yeah. Significant strain on educational systems too, and this whole new era of policy experimentation unfolding. So for those of us trying to navigate these changes, what are some actionable recommendations coming out of the research?
Yes, our research team compiles some specific recommendations, kind of broken down by stakeholder group. For policymakers, there's clearly an urgent need for massive investment in foundational digital infrastructure, especially, as we discussed, for developing nations. They also need to create robust governance structures for AI and education, not just setting goals, but building the support systems, and designing fiscal policies that actually incentivize AI for augmentation, for upskilling, rather than just pure job replacement. For educational leaders, the critical investment really has to be in comprehensive teacher training for AI pedagogy. How do teachers actually use this stuff effectively? They also need to think about redesigning curricula around uniquely human competencies, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, skills AI doesn't replicate easily, and develop clear ethical frameworks for AI use in schools. For business leaders, the advice seems to be move beyond just tactical AI deployment, like trying out a chatbot here or there. Move towards strategic workflow reengineering. They need to treat continuous reskilling not as a perk, but as a core strategic imperative. And maybe consider redefining entry-level roles, perhaps as AI apprenticeships, to build that future talent pipeline from the ground up. And finally, for individuals, for all of us, the advice is pretty clear. Cultivate practical AI fluency. Understand how these tools work, how you can use them. Double down on those uniquely human skills, strategic thinking, empathy, nuanced communication, things AI struggles with. And most importantly, really adopt a mindset of continuous lifelong learning. The old idea of a stable linear career, that's evolving very, very quickly.
That's a really helpful summary. It feels like the promise of an era of abundance, it is real, but actually realizing it without leaving huge swathes of society behind. That's the grand challenge of our time, isn't it? It really requires agility, empathy, and foresight from everyone, all stakeholders kind of working together. Outro. So to recap our deep dive today, AI isn't waiting for us. It's here, it's now, and it's transforming pretty much everything around us, from the jobs we do to how we learn, even how our societies are structured. The choices we make now collectively as societies and individually, they're really going to define whether this future is one of broadly shared prosperity or one at even greater divides.
Indeed. And, there's cause for cautious optimism. The world is beginning to grapple seriously with these massive questions. And if we continue to learn, adapt together, embrace the opportunities while actively mitigating the risks, we can truly become, well, future-proofed in the face of this incredible technological change.
So as we close out, I want to leave you with a thought to maybe mull over. What one human skill do you believe will become the absolute most valuable in an AI-powered world? And maybe more importantly, how are you investing in developing it? We always love hearing your thoughts. So whether you're on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, please do leave a comment. Let us know what you think about how advancement is changing society. Thanks for joining us on Tomorrow Unveiled. We'll see you next time.